Hello BookTube, long time no see. I'm Heather and my channel is inaccurately titled Recently Seen Reading, and I've been absent. Unplanned hiatus. There's nothing seriously wrong that's kept me away from recording. It's been kind of just a meh summer for all kinds of individually trivial reasons. The construction continues catty corner to me. There's an active construction site. Thankfully the excavation has stopped, so that means there's nobody jackhammering anymore down through 10 to 20 feet of bedrock. But they're on the first floor of construction and they've got 9 more floors to go. So construction noise is an inevitable part of my recording now, along with the usual traffic noise. I should probably change the name of this channel to Noises Off. Everything else that's been going on is, essentially trivial, minor health-related things that kind of creep up on you when you're of a certain age. They're all on their way to being resolved. None of them are particularly dangerous or dire, but it's just on top of the construction and the heat waves, not conducive to wanting to record. The other thing that's made it kind of a meh reading period for me is about half of the books I've been reading, those mostly of new releases, have not been as satisfying for me as they have been for other people. It's not unusual for me to read a recently published novel and not have as enthusiastic a reaction to it as the rest of the book chat world. And this I find kind of discouraging. I don't think there's actually anything wrong with my reaction or wrong with other people's reactions. I think I'm looking for different things and I assess some things more negatively than other people do. I have very little tolerance these days, it turns out, for texts that drift into the didactic. I don't have the patience for it anymore, or at this phase of my life. Who knows what will happen in the next couple of months. So that has made it difficult to want to record, because I don't really like to record and talk negatively about books, because I don't really want to discourage people from reading. I want to encourage people to read. So it's been a little bit of slumpville around here in terms of recording. So I thought I would, as the season has turned and everyone's back in school, universities here are back to classes, the elementary schools and high schools went back today, I think, and the construction noise has diminished. The traffic noise, of course, is picking up. All those people going to school, they got to get in their cars. Nobody can just walk. I thought I'd give recording a go, and I've babbled far too long for an introduction. My apologies. So this is essentially a plain old BookTube staple of a Friday reads. Maybe doing Friday reads for several weeks will get me back into the habit of recording. Give it a go at least. What I've read in the last week or so, not spectacularly good books, but interesting in and of themselves. So the first two are John le Carré's first 2 novels. Let me get the titles right. The Call for the Dead, which came out in 1961, and A Murder of Quality in 1962. And these are smoothly written, well-constructed le Carré novels. But what struck me most in reading them is not that the characters that you see developed further in the Smiley series appear in them. I mean, Smiley's there and Gwillim's there and Mendel is there. Yes, Mendel's there. Not that those characters first appear there, but the backstory of someone like Mendel is developed. I didn't expect that. So that was interesting about them as novels and in a le Carré sequence. The other thing that I found most striking about these first 2 le Carré novels is how like Agatha Christie type mysteries there are, and that was unexpected for me. I've read a lot of later le Carré, but the kind of very determined use of a sidekick figure, Mendel in particular, and the use of device of Smiley sitting down and recording essentially timelines and clues. I don't think he actually draws maps and graphs and that kind of thing. It's very reminiscent of kind of Golden Age classic mysteries rather than the later, more subtle working through of the mystery mechanics of the spy plot. So they were definitely worth reading just to learn that about Le Carré's development of his craft. And I think if you're a reader of mystery novels like Agatha Christie novels, and you're not interested in later Le Carré, you might enjoy these first two novels. What else did I read? This is one that might fit into the art-themed reading event that's going on in September at Framed. I'll put the details down below. I actually have a copy here. It's been on my bookshelf for quite a while. This is Hippolyte's Island by a Canadian author, Barbara Hodgson. This came out in 2001, I think. And it's the story of a character named Hippolyte Webb, who's a travel writer from Vancouver who winds up back home after an extended period of travel and writing about his journeys across the 50th parallel, across the globe, around and back. And he's back in his apartment and instantly bored. And so he invents a new project for himself, which is traveling the other direction. So 50 degrees longitude? Yeah, longitude, going north to south. And he's in search of a group of islands called the Aurora Islands, which don't actually exist, but are some of these islands that appear on maps and charts in the 16th, 17th, and 18th, 19th century, and later disappear from those charts because they couldn't be found. So the novel traces his journey there to the islands, or some islands that he finds in his exploration of the islands and the flora and the fauna. And the second half of the book recounts his interactions with the New York publishing world as he's working with an editor to revise, clean up, and fact-check his manuscript. That doesn't go well. It's a beautifully produced book. Hodgson is a book designer. So she designed, the jackets and the interior illustrations, and it's actually an illustrated novel, not a graphic novel, but it's an illustrated novel, and it's full of beautiful drawings and collages. Let me see if I can show you one. Let's see this. So the book is full of these kinds of illustrations, and it's worth picking up from a library for those alone, just to get a sense of what she is doing visually. It's quite a beautifully put together book, and this is a hardcover, and it's quite weighty because the quality of the paper is quite good. I doubt that this is still in print. In terms of its quality as a novel, it's a competent novel, but there's something a little shallow about it, a little missing. There's something not quite there in terms of characterization. The plot makes sense as a journey in an editing story type of a novel, but there's something just a little lacking in it. It's not pacing, it's not plotting. I think it's more to do with the depth of the characterization and the way that the very detailed work and intelligent, meticulous work on the drawings has not been as tightly connected to the text as I think it could have been or should have been. It's as if she needed maybe to work with a graphic novelist or yeah, that's probably quite an insulting thing to say, unintentionally, but there's something just not quite working there. The illustrations and the text aren't working in the kind of productive tension that they need to be. But still, it's a beautiful book physically, and a beautiful illustrated book. And if you are interested in the relationship of illustrated books and comics or graphic novels, this might be an interesting one to pick up. I think it's her third novel, so there are two similarly heavily illustrated novels before this one. So what else have I got? That's what I finished. So I have a stack of things that I'm hoping to work through in the next week. I'm a third of the way through this. This is Anna Seghars' A Transit. This was published in 1944 and is set in 1941, maybe in Marseille, as a refugee in a concentration camp escapee is trying to make his way out of France, theoretically trying to get out of France ahead of worse things to come from the Germans. And so he's stuck in Vichy, France, in Marseille, waiting for transit visas, residence visas, permits, travel permits, and that kind of thing. It's almost picaresque in its nature, but I'm only about a quarter of the way through on that one. I'm going to try and finish that this week because I had it for quite a while. I'm dipping into, and I'm not very far in this one. This one is, oh, glare. The Spy Who Loved by Clare Mulley. This is a 2013 biography. It's bog standard biography of Christine Granville, who was a Polish woman who ended up displaced from Poland with the German invasion and worked for 4 years as a spy for England, either when she was in Hungary, moving in and out of Poland, time in Egypt and Northern Africa, and she's probably best known for the work she did with the resistance in the Maquis in France in 1944. She came out of the war alive, unlike many of the SOE operatives who were parachuted into France, and was murdered in 1952 by a man who is thought to have been one of her lovers. It's a bog standard biography as far as I can tell. It's got one of the most unusual appendices I've ever seen. What's it actually called? Let's see if I can find you the actual title of the appendix. That's really strange to my mind. Appendix 1. Christine preferred dogs to children. A note on Christine Granville's childlessness. I've never seen a note in a biography of any sort commenting on a woman's reproductive status. It's a very strange thing. I think it's being driven by the way part of Granville was being talked about. She was a very sexually active woman, had a very interesting life, was very brave and bold and reckless, but doesn't seem to have had any pregnancies that anyone's aware of. And there's no documentation of any of this at all, of course. So I think the appendix has been added to address something about Granville's sexuality, which is really off-putting. So I'm going to dip into this and read a bit more of it. I'm partly interested in reading it because I'm participating in a group read of Simone de Beauvoir's The Mandarins, which has a section which is connected to part of the French resistance that Granville was involved with. So I'm going to try and maybe get halfway through that in the week coming up, given how irritating I found the appendix. What else have I got going on? I've got Margaret Atwood book to read. It's nothing to look at. It's incredibly beaten up. It's one of these library books that's gotten very well read, but not very well physically taken care of. This happens with library books, right? It's had a very bad adventure with someone's coffee cup. This is The Blind Assassin, so this came out in 2001, and I'm reading this as part of a project to read the best Canadian books published in the 21st century, the list that Lindy and Jolene put together by polling a bunch of people. And this is one of the few books on that list that I haven't read. I'm not a huge Margaret Atwood reader anymore, but I'm about not quite a quarter of the way through this, and I thought I'd give that one a go. So far it seems like classic Atwood. The tone in it is very much an Atwood tone, almost very kind of sharp edge in some of the characters, which I'm enjoying. What else? Oh, I got my first NetGalley book today, which was a pleasant surprise. It's by Mavis Gallant, and it's coming out in October from Véhicule Press. It's Montreal Standard Time, a collection of Gallant's Montreal Standard columns from 44 to 52, just before she moved to Paris. So far I've read maybe the first 30 or 40 pages, and it's great. I'm really looking forward to getting through that this week. It looks like it'll be a great book to add to anyone's collection about Gallant. But that's it for my Friday reads on this channel where you haven't recently seen me at all. I hope you have had a great reading month, a great reading summer, and for those folks who have tagged me on things, I've seen the tags. I'm poking away at them, but I will be very slow at getting to them. I appreciate the gesture though very, very much. So have a good week, folks, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.